Hello. Yeah, this is still part of the same track. Um, cool artist name. I think Chip Squeak. Oh, why is it playing Radiohead? I want to hear more Chip Squeak. No, wrong. Nope. I want to hear this. Anyway, why is it so loud? Hold on. There we go. All right. Welcome. Hello. 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 Welcome. If the music's too loud or anything, tell me, and then I'll like make adjustments or what have you. That's a little loud, isn't it? There we go. That should be better. Okay. So, today, well, number one, I absolutely shit the bed and didn't post a question this week for the schizoid submission type stuff because I couldn't come up with anything. Couple of small updates, like anything worth asking or that piqued my interest. Plus, I've just been really preoccupied with like work, financial bullshit, and concerns. I started taking Adderall, so that's a new update, quick update. I'm just getting the boring shit out of the way, about my life. So I'm taking Adderall now for my ADHD or whatever. Why the fuck is my hair doing this crazy shit? It's bugging me. I don't like it. Stop. It doesn't feel placed correctly. Or some shit. I don't know. Whatever. And so I've been taking Adderall for the last 2 days. 15 milligrams, so like a regular starting dose or what have you. And hold on, let me just. I don't need this shit. Just a talk. Anyway, it's just blue light shit because like it messes with my eyes if I stare at screens without the blue light glasses and shit for too long sometimes. So yeah, it's having an interesting effect. It felt like, okay, really quickly, I don't have the conventional reaction to caffeine. I think probably there's like a lot of neurodivergent people that caffeine doesn't like impact them exactly like I guess it would some people, especially I think ADHD. I know it's been known that ADHD people like caffeine like does weird shit to you, or almost like the opposite. And so anytime I have caffeine, it's always made me nauseous, sleepy, and like sleepy but nauseous and jittery. But like I never understood the whole like, oh, I need my cup of coffee in the morning. How much money to get a buzz cut? Why would I get a buzz cut? You're crazy. Um anyway, Khalil trying to dangle money in front of me to make me do something I would hate. Good job, Khalil. You're a piece of shit. I'm kidding. Um anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah. So anytime I drink coffee, I just feel, oh, there we go. Forgot about my daughter. One second. Sorry about that. I don't know if you guys heard my daughter run in here and, oh my gosh, she's still in here. Okay, I love you too. Um, Anyway, she does that sometimes. She tricked me. She thinks it's funny. She came in here. You heard her just go hot potato, hot potato. I don't even know why she was saying that. I don't like her on camera, so. Um, And but she like burst in here, so I wasn't expecting it. I gave her a kiss goodnight. Then she went behind me and closed the door, but stayed inside to make me think that she left. And that's why you heard her again going, "I love you, Daddy. I love you." She's a silly, crafty little creature. Anyway, so yeah, like that coffee thing. Yeah. I've never gotten that feeling. I've never gotten that feeling of that, like a lot of people describe about, like, I need my morning Joe. And so I wake up and I'm like, oh, I got my coffee in me. I can wake up. Nah, that's never worked for me. So I never had that option, like, no matter how shit my sleep was. Um, and that's kind of the effect I feel like I got with the Adderall. Normally I'm like really sleepy and feeling super tired all morning. But once I took it, about an hour and a half after I took it, I felt like awake. I felt awake. Like it didn't. I haven't noticed any difference on my like stuff like memory stuff or focus stuff as much. But I haven't really put it to the test since I haven't been working very many hours. So in the last 2 days that I've been taking it, I haven't worked. So I haven't sat down and did something that is work related that normally my brain goes, my brain just shuts down and I go to sleep. So I'll have to test it then to see if it actually has any kind of impact. So yes, I'm taking Adderall now. All right, we'll see how that works out. Take that kid's goblet in hand and drink it up, dude. Take that kid's goblet? I'm not sure what that means, but I do love being a father. That's, I don't know. Anyway, so that's enough of that. It's enough about my meds and changes and bullshit. And remember, if you end up liking the stream, if you like the channel already and the interviews, remember to watch that interview I did with the schizoid comedian on there. It's good stuff. Check it out if you haven't seen it. And if you like any of it, please support me on Patreon, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, anyway. So what I wanted to discuss today is my brain. And I'm not just talking about, ADHD or the schizoid personality type stuff and what I grew up with and what led up to that and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's not what I'm here to talk about today. The last stream I did when I was talking, I think it was on Tuesday, when I was talking about like billionaires and immortality and all this like kind of really, really sort of what many would call like sort of referential thinking and things like that. It's kind of exactly what it was. It's not that I don't mean anything. I didn't say I'd absolutely mean it, but I was like, all of it was feeling really salient at the time. And like there was a bunch of context there that obviously I didn't explain or talk about very much because I was just kind of caught up in the rhythm of it. Someone left a comment where they kind of brought up some of this like lack of nuance and moralizing, as they referred to it. That was definitely not my attempt. It was more just me spitting out what was in my brain and not making any like declarative statements of absolute truth. Like, no, that was just my schizo ass take. So I'm not autistic. I am ADHD. I do have schizoid personality disorder, but there's an element of myself that isn't really, can't really be qualified. Like, it can't be diagnosed as of yet because there's no like, there's no like category for it. And I think it's something that there's like a lot of people like me. And I'm referring to the kind of more schizo portions of my thinking, right? A lot of people, it's kind of like you would call like a high functioning autistic person, an Aspie or whatever. like, you meet them, especially if they know how to mask pretty well. Like, you would just think, oh well, you're not this or you're not that. You don't do these things. You're not that, right? Those are kind of the assumptions, and I know a few autistic people that are like, yeah, I'm like, what would be considered high functioning or whatever, but then people just like think I'm like not struggling. I'm just really good at dealing with it, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And I'm kind of the same way on the schizo side of things, right? So when I say schizo, I'm talking like what is normally associated with something like schizotypal or certain aspects of like schizophrenia. I don't have the positive symptoms, right? I don't have hallucinations. I could develop delusions, but everything else about me keeps that in check, which is like my highly skeptical, highly self self questioning nature. Um, and so when I was younger, I had a lot more trouble with that sort of stuff. Nowadays, though, it's completely different. Um, and so yeah, I'm having trouble explaining it because it's like it's weird to put it into words. I feel like I'm going to talk about this, and then some people are going to get it, and other people are going to go, "What the fuck are you talking about, Inks? I don't know what the fuck you're talking about." But there's going to be other schizoids that are going to be like, "Yeah, I know what you're talking about." Um, okay, yeah, because as I've said before, schizoids usually fall into two camps. They're either uh, high, quote unquote high functioning autists or high functioning schizos. Um, and they're all traumatized just by existing. Um, so in my case, because I'm on the schizo side, my thinking is sort of the opposite of what you would expect of an autistic person, even almost high functioning, right? My thinking isn't so much about systems, very concrete things, right? Like the order of stuff as it's supposed to go, whether it's time and space related stuff in their life, sensory stuff, managing that, and like a lot of I discussed it with my closest autistic bud, um, one of my close autistic buds, and basically the way we kind of thought about it is it's like an autistic person is too much in the present, the immediate and the present, right? A lot of their world involves the present, what's not directly in front of them, but almost, what surrounds their lives and everything associated with that. And of course, it's not like they can't have abstract notions of concepts and stuff. No, that's bullshit. But point is, they're very much present based. Some might call reality, physical reality based. But so much so that, to other people, it seems like it's too much. Like they're too into the moment as it's happening, in the concerns of the moment or something. That's kind of how, well, my friend described it to me. The schizo, on the other hand, someone like myself, um, we are concerned with anything but what is currently present, whether sensory wise, or a sense of self and a bunch of other stuff, right? And even the way we assess information, the way I assess information. I'm not going to speak for everybody. The way I assess information, it feels like this. I was trying to come up with metaphors for it, and it's like so fucking hard. Okay, this is a pretty decent metaphor, I think. Uh, an Aspie will like read a book methodically, right? And take every section by section as it stands, and then maybe by chapter or whatever. Um, and if like say they had to like read 5 books in some collection, whether it's nonfiction or fiction, it would be a lot more methodical in their approach, maybe. Which has its own benefits, amazing benefits. But I gut books, right? So I'll just like speed read through sections. When I see redundancy, I just like and then I just like see stuff, and then there's like a bunch of pieces, and then I'm reading from like I'll read 5 books, but they're not the same subject, right? It'll be 5 different books, and then my brain will connect all those books in whatever tangential ways that they're connected. That's kind of what I'm explaining. I won't read 5 books methodically on the same thing. I'll gut 10 books. How about that? Instead of methodically reading 5, I gut 10, and they're usually disparate subjects. But my brain automatically connects the dots between those 10 books that I gutted. Um, and it's like an automatic process. That's kind of what I'm trying to like. It's hard to explain to people. Like anybody can do that, right? It's not impossible. If especially if you've gone through university or whatever like that, like like you've had to gut books, right? It's actually a skill. It's a really useful skill, gutting books. Sometimes you need to produce something in a month, and you need to read like a ton of books, and obviously you can't go pay from front to back unless you're some insane speed reader. Um, Especially when you have to cite you're citing like 20 something different books, right? Um, but anyway, it's kind of that's kind of how it feels, but it's automatic. It's not a conscious process. If that makes sense. Like I don't sit there and go, "Ooh, how are all these things connected?" These 5 books or these 10 books that I just gutted through it. Like how are they connected? I'm going to think about that. No, it's just like that, right? Um and it kind of feels like the same way like someone on the autism side of things would the clicks, but it would be about like they would have like probably a much better memory about the specifics of what they read, and likely they would probably want to read if they're like on a zooming in on a specific subject or thing. They're probably going to read just that type of stuff, right? And then try to piece together everything that they can, and if they see problems, contemplate solutions. Problem solution, problem solution, problem solution on the smallest of microcosm levels of what they're looking into. And then my ass is macrocosming like all over the fucking place. And it's sort of similar to how a lot of autistoids or just autists I have spoken to, how they have to sort of zoom out sometimes of minutia, because if they get too caught up in it, it could lead for some, it could lead to like a meltdown. For others, it's just anxiety and stressful, and it causes them maybe to make decisions that are like long term not the most beneficial to relieve the stress of the present, of the immediate, because it's so potent, because of how zoomed in they are on it, whatever it may be. Um, and so I have to do the same, but I'm too zoomed out. And so that could negatively impact my life significantly. And it has. I'm too zoomed out. And I have to like rein myself in to the more concrete, the more specific. Right. And not think ahead to a future in which I no longer am alive or something. Um, it's often why a lot of what motivates me to do a lot of things, like especially this, is it's motivated by ideas and things that or occurrences that I'm hoping will happen long after I'm dead. Um, because that's like where my headspace goes. And so then I'll have more trouble doing those small specific steps of what needs to be done in the present, um, And so yeah, that gets in my way quite a bit. Add the ADHD in there, and it's just like, it's a tough time. I know I'm butchering this. I'm doing a terrible job. I thought it would be like the easiest thing to explain since I live it every day, but it really isn't. But that's why I'm trying to come up with some kind of fucking metaphor. And I came up with a few, but yeah, it's autists are too zoomed in all the time, so they have to learn to zoom out to function in life and manage it and deal with people, right? Deal with like the medium, which is kind of zoomed out but not totally zoomed out, which would be kind of the quote unquote normie or whatever. And then I got to do the opposite. I got to like go in, and I think I've overcompensated my zooming in. I don't know if it's overcompensated, but I've tried my best to hone it as much as I can because it's really helpful at keeping my like shit together. Because just like for someone that's on the autistic side, that something like that, it's seemingly minutia to the average person, but it's just so damn like almost viscerally important that that thing not happen, or that thing does happen in that specific way, right? As I've heard described, it's like the emotional attachment to, or the emotional impact that for an Aspie or whatever, something seemingly like trivial might be to the average person. It's the same, but like on the meta macro shit. Like I'll have I'll like see a few news articles and be reading a book about something, and then there's some idea that's like discussed or mentioned in a video game I'm playing, and that may happen all in the same few days or that same day or whatever, and then my thoughts are just like feeling really scrambled. They're like here, there, blah blah blah. I'm sitting there kind of like thinking about that stuff, and then like I'm getting like, it's ruining my day. It's like negatively impacting my day, like in a real fucking way. It feels like painful. I get scared and it feels painful and it's really difficult. Um, like I just it used to cause me like significant, like I had a panic disorder. I just didn't understand that that's what I was doing, because what I found odd is whenever I looked up anxiety and stress, like because I had a lot of anxiety and depression and stress. I still have stress and depression, but anxiety's in check now, thanks to medication and me working on my shit, and philosophy helped a lot. But when I was having like panic attacks every 2 days in my 20s, it I would look up other people like, why do you have panic attacks? And it would be like social anxiety. It would be like, different phobias, crowds, like all kinds of like very sort of almost like very concrete things, right? Or the physiological effects of having a panic attack would turn into like a fear of the physiological stuff. But like my shit, when I would try to explain, and now my current psychologist gets it, 'cause, they've seen them for a long time. Uh, when I would have panic attacks, it would always be over like weird existential shit. Like even my dreams would be like my like nightmares would be like weird existential shit. It was always existential dread about my like place in the universe, and like the ever expanding vastness of it, and like a bunch of other stuff like that. Like my brain was trying to like I would put myself mentally into like headspaces that like my limited intellect or whatever, my limited human intellect could like ideas that like I couldn't quite grasp or fathom because of the vastness of the question, and then that would cause me like a fucking panic attack, and I would have to like actively like when I was in really bad spaces, I had to actively avoid things like philosophy um, and certain types of STEM subjects, and Any kind of also any kind of depiction of someone, like that was when it was really bad. Any kind of depiction of someone that was losing their mind, or like becoming detached from reality. I couldn't like I couldn't look at media like that when, like, for like a whole year almost, when it was like really bad, like when I had a psych break and everything. And because like it felt like some battle I've been having inside myself my whole life, that I've been struggling with, that I managed to sort of like navigate and use logic, reason, to like keep myself from thinking too absurd, making too absurd of connections, and then them becoming too salient in me, and then them causing me like fucking, like, and like I said, like there, I remember even in like in like in college, well, or like not college so much, but like in my 20s, I would like try to explain to somebody, like, and like their thought would just be like, well, why just don't think about that stuff, like don't think about like metaphysical ideas and cosmos and future directions humanity will take, and the inconsequential nature of everything I do and say. The idea that everything I might be saying at all given times is being produced by essentially the meat in my head in a way that is predetermined, and I have like the illusion of decision, and like, like all this sort of shit. And they'd be like, why do you think about that stuff? Just don't think about that stuff. And I couldn't explain to them that it's like, this is not an option, this is not a choice. It's like telling an autistic person that, like, hey, why are you freaking out so much about like a particular noise, or um, the heat in the room, or the cold in the room, or the fact that like you had a process on how you did something, that process has been derailed significantly. Like, just chill out, just relax, right? It feels like being told that if you're like on that side of things, where like the human being in front of you just does not fucking understand. This is like, this thing that they think is trivial is anathema to some aspects of your brain and your existence. And um and so, like, yeah, like, even therapists and stuff, when I would tell them my concerns, like they believed that I was thinking about all this stuff, all this weird shit, because like all this like really existential shit, because I was I was trying not to think about like my trauma, right? Because I am a trauma victim, like of a conventional kind. We all the Zoids have trauma, and not necessarily always of the more conventional kind, but like, I had like sexual abuse stuff and whatever. And like my therapist or my psychologist used to, not this one, she's great, but they used to think that like, oh, it was just me, like, it's just that, and you're just like trying to hide in the abstract. And it's like, no, motherfucker, like, it's these abstract notions and the feeling that I'm like losing myself, right? Like that I'm just like disappearing or something. Like, that is what was causing me fucking the shakes. Yeah, trying to avoid the real problem. My processor seems to be a hybrid version. My reading is more systematic, but I absorb the essence rather than the details. Usually, except music, I remember and feel that. It's like a chemistry experiment. It all goes into the pot, and the resulting associations occur spontaneously. Sometimes decades later, a spider's web is a good visual model draped with dewdrops. Trying to avoid the real. Yeah. And so, yeah. So it was really hard to, as someone, I know, it's a made up term. I say schizo spectrum, right? And so somebody's just going to be like, oh, so like schizophrenia, are you talking about like schizophrenia and schizoaffective and schizophreniform? I'm like, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the many aspects that are usually associated to things like that, insofar as the type of thinking that occurs, right? Sometimes they're considered cognitive disturbances or something. Um, and trying to explain, no, that's my natural state, and it has been since I was a child. And in trying to explain that to people, because there's no category for it, they didn't know how to work with me. They didn't know what to do with me. I remember even growing up as a kid, I would ask questions about things that were really stressing me out as a kid. Right? Like it sometimes it would be like what we considered like supernatural shit and magical thinking type stuff. But I was a kid, right? So I hadn't like come up with the systems of checks and balances that I've established and created over the years in my life, right? And so yeah, so I was like trying to check in with my parents who did not understand why the fuck I had these concerns or these was asking these questions. Usually I wouldn't tell them how scared I was. I would just be asking questions, seeking like, and they never had answers for me. And so yeah, so I was that kid that was uh, getting a lot less sleep than he should when he's like 8 years old because he thinks he's gonna be like taken by extraterrestrials or fucking I'm gonna like disappear, like my mind is gonna somehow disappear into a different dimension or some shit, right? Like those were my like my childhood fears, were things like that. And I think that's part of the reason I got into horror as much as I did. I think it was like a way to sort of get those fears and make them like it grounded me in the this is fiction. This is fiction. Um, Even though some of it might not be, but whatever. Especially when it comes to UFOs and shit like that. But point is, I had to struggle the same way somebody that would be like they used to call it Asperger's, or now it's like high functioning autism. The same way that person had to struggle with the world for the reasons they had to struggle socially, um, the just the physical reality, like all sort of shit. Um, those same like not the same struggle, but the same feelings and difficulties and pain and suffering and confusion and self-loathing and that a lot of autistic people go through. Um, I was going through that, but like it's just different. It's not. It wasn't my like. It wasn't like sensory stuff, right? It was, but in the opposite direction. It was like I felt like I was like disassociating, but I didn't like have a mentor. I had no one like I could have been fine in that state, but like for me it was like, mom, dad, why am I like drifting off all the time, and why am I like looking at things like how did I explain that as a kid? Like why am I looking at a leaf and then looking at the bugs on the leaf and then thinking about um how impossible it is for me to be able to conceive of the thoughts that an insect has, and when I would try to think like like how would that feel or sound, like what would it be, and then like it would like start freaking me out, and then what does that mean about like are there things out there that see me like an insect and just you know are just as likely to see me as like this or that, and like and I would have like these fucking things, and who's I gonna fucking talk to as a kid or even as a teen? And so I had to come up with my own systems. I had to come up with my own ways to navigate this stuff. I used philosophy, I used psychology, I used history, I used a variety of like dabbling in things like biology um, and like medical shit and blah 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 to find to find comfort um in all these like questions that were like freaking me out as a child and a teenager, and sometimes well into my 20s when it just became more complex. Like I wasn't worried anymore about like getting abducted. I was like, now I was just worried about like death and what that means about my actions and while I'm alive, and my beliefs and thoughts, and like why do I have these beliefs and thoughts, and like am I crazy, am I insane? Like the fear of insanity was like something that I struggled with a lot in my 20s, because like I just thought like, well, especially since like with the schizoid stuff too, on top of that, like you add like the whole like I'm dissociated from my feelings in many ways, except for like anxiety and frustration. That's um yeah, like it's just it's terrible. But that's I think, I mean, I don't know if I'm making any fucking sense. I don't know if anybody listening, like, or that listens to this later as a VOD, knows what I'm talking about. If you do, if I'm making any fucking sense, please leave a comment. It'll actually bring me a little bit of solace to see it. I know it's weird. Um, but that's what like that's why it like really upsets me that schizotypal or whatever is considered a personality disorder. It infuriates me, because I bet a lot of these people that are like schizotypal are just people like me that didn't manage, that didn't make it. And so it became really obvious that their thinking was that divergent. And it started, they never developed, maybe because they were dealing with all like a lot of conventional trauma, like maybe they were physically abused or whatever by their parents, or like blah blah blah, or they had like some other type of situation, and so on and so forth. And so they couldn't hack it, and they they turned into the kind of person that I was dreading constantly ever turning into. Like I remember like in my 20s I was thinking like what's wrong with my brain? Like what's wrong with my thinking? Like am I schizophrenic? And then like I would look it up and I'm like, I don't have any of these positive symptoms. I don't see stuff. I don't I don't like sometimes I believe stuff, but then like I try to make sure that like in my head that it's like somewhat true, and sometimes I would be bad at it when I was younger, and so I had a little bit of that, but it never like took over my life to the point where like it made me it really enhanced my being sort of a social recluse, especially as I got older. Um, for sure, among the not understanding or relating to like fucking so much of what the average human seems to prioritize, um, and then feeling alien and empty because of it. But it's just it just sucks because it's a personality disorder, schizotypal. Schizophrenia is a neurological disorder, but you have to have the hallucinations and shit, auditory, sensory, or whatever, to get categorized as somebody that's schizophrenic. So people that are like high functioning schizos or whatever, like there's just no respite, man. There's nothing. There's no understanding. There's no recognition. There's no, workplace, whatever, blah 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 programs, blah blah blah. Like there's just nothing. There's fucking nothing. It's not even recognized as a thing. Even in my stupid brain, it's such an obvious thing, right? Why wouldn't it be possible for that sort of thinking, magical, referential, tangential, whatever thinking, loose associative? Why would it be so impossible for someone to be born with like that sort of default cognitive framework just like an autistic person has theirs, and it differs that greatly from the average person. Why wouldn't that be a possible thing? I'm living it, so why wouldn't it be possible? And so sometimes I might like say stuff that's like really out there, or like a huge jump in like logic or whatever. Um, and usually I'm just rambling. But when I stop and look at it all and like really think about it, then I'm like, okay, well, there's all these points, and there's this, and there's also this, and there's this counterpoint, and oh, this makes sense, and so on and so forth. That's why I like getting like some pushback on like some of my wackier ideas, because I like to have that kind of, that sort of like check. But then it's really funny too, because my there you go. That was the word I was also not thinking of. I think it's the same reason why autistic people and uh, schizo peeps like me are able to have this like very very skilled metacognition. Um, like especially the ones that like hacked it, that made it, that like created a system to function and navigate. Those that are considered high functioning or whatever in their respective departments. Um, it's exhausting. It's really exhausting. Having to translate it. But anyway, so the process of having to translate it into neurotypical speak, knowing what to say, what not to say, what is faux pas, what is socially correct and no correct, what you're allowed to question or bring up, and what you're not, what you should be preoccupied with and you shouldn't, what is insensitive because you're preoccupied with the things surrounding it and not concentrating on the person itself, and having to like practice that, think about how they think about how the people around me need me to think and understand and navigate. And so I mean, it's so fucking stressful. I mean, you have no choice but to develop a significant amount of metacognition. Like you either do that or you don't make it. It's as simple as that. You either develop a strong metacognitive capacity or you don't, and you live in your world, and just that could lead to two things. If you have a support system, they're just gonna like take care of your ass, and you could just be like a NEET or something. No offense to NEETs at all, because some fucking days, you know, when things are stressful, I think back at my NEET years. And or you just lose it, right? You get put in a place, you get put in a home, you get put in a mental institution or something, right? Or you need to be a ward of the state or some shit, or you're homeless, or you're just homeless, wandering the streets. Dude, I bet you there's a ton of autistic people that are homeless. It's probably like a good chunk of autistic people are also homeless. There's probably a disproportionate amount of like schizo spec and like autistic people in the homeless community. If you, yeah, I'm pretty sure that wouldn't be surprising. If there would be like a higher proportion of that sort of shit among the homeless. And I'm not talking about like just drug addiction or something, because that would be a different category, but just separate from that, even if it might have led to drug addiction to cope. So all my life, I was trying to keep myself from falling into one of those categories. And one of the people who saved me was Jesus Christ. No, I'm just kidding. Um, One of the people who saved me was no offense to the Christians out there. I just had to. Um, was my wife meeting her and falling for her and her patience. Her, she's kind of on the avoidant, dismissive type. So that was perfect for my schizoid ass because you know, like she wouldn't be like begging for my affection because she's not gonna do that shit. Fuck that, in her mind. And also um, she was like, well, I can, like, I don't need anybody, right? Even though like she did need people in her life, but she's like, I don't need anybody, I don't need this, and fuck this, and like that was perfect for my schizoid ass because it's like, oh wow, like you're really self sufficient. I don't have to like, I'm not in charge of all your feelings all the time. Even though I was being quite hurtful to her at times with my sort of sort of detached, sometimes cold um, responses to certain things, or so on. Um. Anyway, but yeah, she was like I always say. I've told her before. Like if I didn't meet her, and I didn't like find someone as ground. She's a very grounded person. Um, she was my anchor. I don't know if I would have made it because like I would have. She forced me to be in the world because I cared about her. She forced me to be in the world. Um, Meaning I forced myself to be in the world for the sake of having her in my life. And without her having met her, I probably would have either gotten into some like super crazy weird relationships that probably would have like tumbled me further, maybe some toxic crazy shit. I would have maybe just gone into like drugs or something, or maybe I would have um became just IRL Diogenes, wanting to just walk around and like, be like soothsaying, walk around fucking uh, rambling about some philosophical ideas or something while like fucking having to eat street trash. Oh yeah, it's against all. Let me read this. Similar experience as far as having nobody to talk about how I saw things. Complicated by a lack of words for it. Still working on that. Thank you, RJ, Dio, and others. Same with meeting my wife. Against all odds, I can't stress to younger Zoid enough how much a special purchase changes the dynamics. Yeah, it's really funny because like it's not. I didn't. It's not like my wife opened me up into a world of socializing and enjoying it. Fuck no. But she opened me up into the world of I care about something in this world, and it's you. And because of her kind of standoffish nature um and stuff, like I was safe. I felt safe for her to establish that connection. She wasn't like, and the stuff she would badger me about would be like logical stuff usually. Not sometimes it was just like kind of social emotional, but it wasn't as much. It would usually be like because she didn't want to because of her kind of avoidant dismissive nature, she didn't want to like rely on me for that, right? Because she couldn't rely on anyone. That's what happens. And so she she needed me like just to be like, if we're living together, we need to pay the bills. We need make sure that this gets done, that gets done, make sure that this shit gets accomplished. We need to make these phone calls. They're very much like that. They're just like do, very scheduled person. And so like it kind of made me go like, oh shit, like okay, yeah, I got to do this, and it kept me occupied in the present, in the material world enough to where I didn't drift off completely, and it gave me the space and time I needed to create my own sort of framework that basically allows such a thing to not occur. And I noticed that when I like drink and stuff, I noticed that some of those parts of me like starts like popping up a bit more, um, because like my inhibitors. People say inhibitions go down when you drink, right? My inhibitors that like care about like, okay, what's reasonable? What what context do I have to integrate here? What can't I just jump to a conclusion in my mind and feel like it's true, right? And so like yeah, it does that a little bit, but not a crazy amount. But yeah, if anybody's seen me, been with me drunk, like you've probably seen some of that. Sometimes it slips out. Start kind of like getting really weird, rambly, and I start like just saying stupid shit. Um, anyway, I just wanted to like I wanted to explain it to you guys. It's actually like really, um, like I talk about everything. Like I'll talk about anything with my audience or whatever you want to call it. Like I'll talk about anything personal about me. I don't care. This is like the one of the subjects that like I'm the most like concerned or anxious about discussing, because of the connotations it has and have been kind of more societally accepted. That someone that thinks like me is we're just crazy. We're crazy people. We're just crazy. We're schizos and we're crazy. And it's bullshit. Because there's been so many times in my life that my kind of loose associative thinking has like saved my life, or is part of the reason I didn't allow certain things or certain decisions to be made in my life that would have been destructive, or it's allowed me to give advice to other people that needed it, because I was seeing everything from like this kind of zoomed out, and so then I would try to like, it's almost like, I know this is ridiculous and I'm not trying to make it sound grandiose, but it's kind of like when okay, like when you're talking about a preacher, right? Somebody is having everyday problems, stressors, whatever, and let's just say it's a religious person, and they go to speak to their preacher or their father, and they want to have like a one-on-one, and the preacher is there to sort of discuss abstract ideas and concepts about God and your place in the world and whatever the fuck, right? People will go to those types of people to find some kind of solace for like these big questions that they don't know how to navigate about life. And I felt like over the years I did that for a few people, though in a more secular fashion. um I was able to sort of like get the concerns they had, and then like I was like thinking about their concerns and going, but why would this matter so much? And I used to say, things out loud like that, and when I was younger, and it'd be like, well, it matters to me, you're such a dick. And so now as I got older, and I was able to help people, because I'd be like, why? And then I'm like, okay, let's get that information, let's see what my mind is going like. Look at all these things over here, and like, why would that small thing be, and what does it represent to you, and like, whatever. And I would just like find all that stuff on the outside, and then I would try to like help them zoom out a little, and which was just my natural state, but I understood it wasn't theirs. And so I would zoom out, and I often didn't even know that's what I was doing, and it would bring people like some comfort, like people that were under a lot of distress. um so So I mean, what my point is that people like me that think like me, there is like a sort of use to it. There's something that can be derived from it that's actually productive and incredibly useful. Um, if that makes any sense. Um, Sort of like the same way you would get a like okay, I was like I can't give people my thoughts. It would cause problems in various ways. Nah, you don't mind fucking dropping your thoughts on here sometimes. Anyway, let's see here. Mine was pretty independent too. She didn't need me. She wanted me because it made her life better according to her standards. She definitely made mine better. Yeah, yeah. That's kind of like I think for a schizoid that ever if they ever want to like uh have a relationship that would even remotely work ever, it would be that like the partner doesn't need you, but they want you, but they don't need you, right? You're not the begin all and end all. That's like the last thing this schizoid wants to be for somebody. Is like the begin all and end all for them. That's fucking terrifying. I can't live my life like that. This fucking hair is driving me crazy. I keep looking at it. It's like keeps fucking straying. Look at this fucking thing. What is this? Anyway, um, so yeah, it was just a scary thing to talk about because I don't know. I feel like other schizoids that are more like on the autistic side of things, they might just hear me and the way I talk and ramble sometimes, and they might think like, this guy's just yapping about nonsense, and he's just like, he's just saying weird shit to be entertaining or something, or to be like a rhetorician of some kind, and or to because like they're just crazy. And how can I take any like advice or serious like matters or serious thought in the things he says about my personality disorder, the whole schizoid thing, right? And that and, like it's just I mean, I think part of the reason I was able to partially like over time and with the help of a few people that probably had a little touch of what I have going on, um, figuring out or seeing these like like these connections between um, neurodivergence and trauma, and how being as such is traumatic in and of itself, and how that could develop into like this PD, possibly not declarative statements. Like it's just the way my thinking functions that just sort of allowed that. I can't tell you how many times I've had like hallelujah moments of like disparate pieces of knowledge, and how many times I've said it mid conversation and somebody's like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Ah, shit, yeah, that's right. We had that conversation like a year ago or something, right? I think, you know." I had that. Let's see here. I can't give people. Oh yeah, I read that. I had that second version too after my wife died. Idealization, devaluation, wash, rinse and repeat. It drove me here. Yeah. All right. I don't know. I don't know. Like I don't know how useful that was. If you just got here, check it out. Check out what I was saying. About my thinking and myself. I just feel like either people are gonna think like, "Wow, Inks is crazy," or they're gonna like my one of my issues, and I've talked to this with my autist bud. Well, I've said their name before, but their username, which is Era. Um, One of my concerns was always like, I want to help the Zoids, but the Zoids aren't all schizos like me. A lot of the Zoids are essentially the opposite of that. They're like very much in the concrete world. Those are usually the schizos that are really into like specific STEM fields and things like that. I've noticed, um, or like specific geopolitical things and in specific ways. Um, it concerned me. I'm like, I'm gonna lose those people. I'm gonna lose them, even though I think I have something valuable to say about the personality disorder or whatever itself, which is separate from like the way my fucking schizo ass brain thinks. It's like a separate issue. It's a separate thing. Being autistic is not created because of trauma. And I believe that being like me, being like kind of schizotypal thinking or whatever, it wasn't a trauma thing. That was not trauma that created that in me. The schizoid stuff, the detachment from my feelings and the anhedonia and the volition and feeling like constantly like a fish out of water and like not connecting at all to my fellow man in almost any capacity, except through like third party means with just like fiction and narratives. Not being able to like tap into a sense of joy, meaning, purpose, like finding purpose in anything, watching people around me claim they have all this purpose and me not understanding why they even thought that one, and also like why can't I, how come I can't do that, how come everything feels like purposelessness, like purely purpose, blah, you know what I'm saying, about my life and my existence. And why is it that I wasn't interested in social gatherings like all the people around me were, and what does that make me, and like all that shit, all that stuff developed because of trauma. The trauma of being someone that just doesn't align cognitively with their peers or their environment, and just feeling like, what am I doing here? I'm like, what am I doing here? And the world just being just confusing and terrifying as a child, and then feeling pointless and empty as a teen, like an adult. So that's the trauma I think a schizoid endures, that causes a lot of these issues. And I because I know that's what led me to be a schizoid. It's just no mentors that understood me, no father or mother figures that I could connect to, that would understand the way I think or experiencing, or be able to comfort me when I was afraid as a child. And no one, an institution, a public school system that had no room for divergent thinking. Um, a social system that had no room for significant divergence outside of maybe like counterculture stuff at best. And even then, that felt like so small, or not small, but like so small scope in my stupid brain. The neurotype is predetermined disposition, part of normal human diversity. Disorder is the trauma influence, 100%. Yeah, that's what I mean. I could have been like, had something like schizospec been a thing. It's still not really. Had a support system. Had I had educated, informed parents, even though I don't know about that one. Like my mom maybe, but my dad not so much. Had I a public school system that recognized this as not being disruptive or me just getting distracted too much, but legitimately like a way a child can think and making even the mildest of accommodations so that I could learn more comfortably. Had like all those things happened, had those things actually been recognized, having peers like now, like if you have a peer in school and they're like, oh yeah, I'm high function autistic or something, you're gonna have a lot of peers now that are like, oh, I've heard of that, or yeah, no, that's cool, or whatever, right? I mean, workplaces now are like making room for this shit, including my own. And the point is, if I would have had some of that shit, maybe I wouldn't end up schizoid. I probably would have just been like some less depressed, less anxious, less angry. Maybe not less angry, uh, because I would still see seeing all these fucking problems, but just less uh, emotionally self-destructive person. I would have been a happy schizo, or happier, right? I would think that my words, even though not less common, were something that was, I don't know, had worth outside of my own mind, subjective worth, meaning I might have. There's just so many things I know, woulda, coulda, woulda, right? But like it's just fucking wild, man. I don't know. It's really like sobering. Just anyway. So yeah, my concern as an advocate or whatever is like I can't represent the autistic schizoid. I could only I can represent the schizoid portions of this stuff, but I can't. I'm not. I feel like I don't do a good enough job for those people and their concerns and their worries, right? Like imagine if you're on the Aspie side of the schizoid wall or thing. Like if you had a schizoid angst that was more on that side, and I was more like, I like wrote down my like stuff and did video essays and didn't just do stream of consciousness crazy shit. And imagine if I I was like constantly talking about and discussing like how schizoids deal with sensory issues and stuff like that, and like um kind of more OCD-esque type traits and stuff, right? Like imagine if that was the schizoid angst that appeared from the ether. Then I would have been more useful to the autistic schizoids, but I would have been a lot less useful to the schizoids. And yeah, there we go, Don. I would have been just as angry, but better equipped to deal with the issues constructively and effectively, and also be able to emotionally regulate the salience of stuff. Like even now, like when I look at too much stuff, that's just like reminds me of just inevitable doom of our species, and like feelings like that. Like I just like it just it's just fuck, it just destroys me. Um, but maybe I would have been able to manage that kind of shit a lot better. It wouldn't fuck up my week. It would just be like, okay, well, that's nothing I can do about that angst, and blah blah blah, right? I would have had like better coping mechanisms, and I wouldn't be having as much to drink some nights. Yeah, it sucks. So that's part. So I don't know what to do about that. I think I'm not speaking for anybody. God, I gotta cut my nails. Holy shit. Anyway, um, I think there are some schizoids that do YouTube stuff that are more on the Aspie side of stuff. I don't know if they recognize it as such. I'm just armchairing here. Um, and I don't know if you've come across that. And and I'm glad they're there because I'm hoping they can do what I can't do, which is like more closely be attuned to the Aspie schizoids. I feel like I'm doing a disservice to them. And I'm trying my best to like I'm trying my best, but it's extremely hard. I don't know. Do you guys have questions? I'll answer anything. I can go for like another 10 15. Do you guys have anything like about the way I think? Just a question about do you believe in this? Is this like what's happened? Whatever. I don't care. Like just ask me anything. Throw in chat. No, I'm not sure if that's a shot at me active. I'm not. That's not what I'm looking for. Like feeling needed or whatever. Definitely. I just want to be. I don't want to be needed. I want to be. I want to be useful at the thing I'm attempting to do. What I'm trying to accomplish, to whatever small degree. I want to be useful at it. And I don't know. I feel like there's an entire subcategory that, or half of like, I would argue half the schizoids I can't effectively reach out to because of the way I am and the way I approach things in this kind of top down instead of bottom up way of thinking. Breakfast? Hey, yeah, I feel like I may be schizoid or avoidant attachment, definitely monotropic, but mainly just want to heal my burnout. Yeah, I mean, if it's burnout, medication has helped me with some of that. That's for sure. Like, hey, you know, have you guys heard of like autistic burnout? Right? It's like a common subject, right? Like for the high functioning autists or just autists in general, but like the burnout that they go through. There's the same thing. There's like a schizo burnout. Same shit. Like a crash, man. Like, and it's not fun. Um, and that's why I'm trying to like reach across the aisle with a lot of like autistic, um, maybe you know, any academics that are out there that are interested in these types of subject matters like psychology and stuff, or autistic advocacy type stuff that's like not in the, you know, because I feel like autists are like the only non non schizo spectrum type of person that would give us the time of day besides other schizospec people. But just us talking to ourselves is it's not entirely the most effective thing. We need to be able to reach across the aisle into normie world and um and also, well, just not normie world, into the like differing people with differing cognitions than our own, and be taken seriously, and be taken as our experiences not being a lie, or some kind of psychological runaround or some shit, and actually be treated like, oh, you're telling the truth. This is your experience. I'm curious. This is something like, just the way an autist will like approach it and want to discuss it and want to like piece it together and parse it out and ask questions, um and when they see the degree of sincerity that you're bringing to the table, autists are like the ones most willing to just listen and try to figure it out. Oh yeah, I know about that one, Blades. And so for some of you that might be thinking like, why is he talking about autism and shit? It's like, because I feel like they're the only ones that will like listen about like, some of these like wackadoodle ideas that I'm making very sure to say that they are my ideas. They are not facts. They feel like facts to me, but they are not. And I want the autist researcher, STEM person, or whatever that wants to collect quantitative data as well as qualitative to figure out if this is a thing. Like, what is the schizoid? Is what I'm saying about it being a burned out, disaffected, traumatized, complex PTSD fucking neurodivergent person from the horror of having to live in this fucking world that wasn't built for us. Like, I want to test those theories. I want somebody with the credentials and but the interest. And I feel like the only ones that would ever be interested are the autists. Because I feel like the schizospec people, or even the schizospec schizoids, are like just written off. And I've seen in the past when the server on the Zoid Void, I've seen this differentiation cause problems in the past, even on my server, where you have like, an autonomous collective of a bunch of people that fall under the schizoid stuff, or are diagnosed, or have fucking delved into it deep enough to know that, like, yeah, man, like, this is all, like, a lot of this is right, and they clash. They'll clash on the server because some of them are more on the autism side and the other ones are more on the schizo side, and so then, like, there's a lot of miscommunication, and it doesn't happen a lot, but I've seen it happen. But usually Zoids are like chill enough to, like, and metacognitive enough to where they can be like, okay, I'm not understanding it, but it feels like you're coming from a sincere place. Let's see what you're trying to say. What's happening here, right? Shadowfall, for those that know him, always jokes around. It's like, hey, you have some weird fetish for autistic people? No, man. I just think that they're probably one of the only groups of people that would be might have a higher chance of being more functioning than the average schizo. Because, there are kind of supportive things now to like a significant degree. And so they're probably the ones more likely to establish a career or a profession in, like, the STEM field, right? And so instead of just, like, floating away from it and just, like, fucking reading a bunch of books and learning about it and then just, like, not wanting to be a part of their world, like, and so I feel like those are the only people that would have ever listened to my fucking whack-a-many shit and be able to do something about it. because they probably have more. They're probably more functioning in the sense that like there are supports there. There are things that like the world is now recognizing. And so those supports are letting them find a slightly more stable ground. It sure shit ain't perfect, but they can find a more stable ground. And I can't. I mean, the autists are still struggling to try to like get the neurotypical world to be like, yo, we are valid and we can bring some shit to the table that's unique and really cool, but you guys keep doing shit the same way you've always done it, you know, majority rules, instead of having some kind of like conversation, because everything's social in neurotypical land. So much is just social and conventionally interpersonal. It like takes up like giant parts of the memory that it turns into nothing but noise anytime something tries to get in that's on the outside. And they're listening to the autists. They're starting to listen to the autists because they can recognize it. They're not just insane people. Yeah, autismophrenia. Yeah, I also watch J-Reg. Yeah, for those that don't know, he has an autismophrenia video, which is I don't agree with every point, but he's got some pretty decent points in there. And he put a clip of my ass talking to him in there. But that was like my biggest claim to fame on the internet. J-Reg noticed me. Wow. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I love the autism psychopath normie circle. Yeah, that shit's fucking 100%. Yeah, Melee, that shit's like in my opinion, that's a fucking the biggest load of horse shit. Like everything I've seen, it just points to that being ridiculous. That it can't be coincided. Being autistic isn't trauma-based. Being schizoid is trauma-based. How the fuck wouldn't that be able to coincide? That's fucking crazy. One's a neurodivergence. The other one's a fucking result of like a specific type of trauma. That I think is the case. But whatever. If you ask like just the psychology world, like they have all kinds of theories and ideas on how the fuck a schizoid's developed. But it's really funny because that's the one thing I want to talk to more psychs about that do know about schizoid stuff is that, like I want to talk to Eleanor again. I think we, hopefully we can do something again. I want to work with somebody that has like the ability to recall textbook knowledge a lot better than I can. So to construct something. I'm looking at you out there, Schizoid Vision. No, I'm kidding. No person. But yeah, they're great. Look at their shit. And to basically put together something more substantial that explains, hey, all these theories that books like these delve into regarding why the schizoid is a schizoid. Okay, so how about this? A lot of that stuff's kind of true, but the group of people that's the most susceptible to that kind of shit happening to them internally are neurodivergent people. Because we come with a built-in feeling of alienation amongst our peers. And disconnect. And also, they always talk about the schizoid often has like, either narcissistic or neglectful parents, like parent figures that the child couldn't rely on, that even as a baby that they were sensitive and they didn't feel connected or safe or they could rely upon their caregivers. Who's the most likely to fucking end up in that situation? Fucking autists and schizos. When your fucking parents can't make you feel safe because of the whatever your version of the fucking boogeyman under your bed doesn't make sense to them, or they don't have the words to comfort you because their solutions are solutions that might have worked for them as children, if they even provide a solution, that shit fucks you up as a kid, man. That shit makes you think your parents can't do shit. Your parents can't protect you. Your parents don't understand you. Your parents don't this. Your caregivers, your authority figures, your peers. You just feel like, whether you realize it or not, and obviously it's generally unintentional, you're living through a life of neglect. And what more than like a consistent amount of ongoing neglect from and dismissal often of your lived experience from when you were a child to when you got to adolescence. What more than that would be the fucking recipe to make a schizoid? Like, am I being ridiculous? I'm not making a like I said, these are my armchair. I feel like I have to say that every time. I sometimes do. And I definitely should have for that that billionaire seal thing. A lot of people probably thought I lost my mind because I was talking about Seal, and Seal's like from an anime and called Neon Genesis Evangelion, and they were probably like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Because they might not even watch anime, and I just, like, in my head, everyone's seen Neon Genesis Evangelion and knows what I'm talking about. Why couldn't yeah. But yeah, that's kind of my point. Like, the stuff that people like Masterson, you know, Ralph Klein and guys like that, the stuff they're writing about is about neglect. It's about a child that grows up feeling disconnected and unsafe, and the caregivers feel like they can't provide what is necessary to facilitate their existence in a reasonable way, even if they're not like consciously thinking about it like that. As they get older, they start consciously thinking about it like that. And it goes from parents to authority figures to having no mentors to peers to eventually the idea of friendship, the idea of romance, the idea of human connection becoming something like of an alien thing to them. And if I can't connect to anybody, and none of my feelings are able to be connected to by people, why even have these feelings? Eventually your brain says, and then you just stop having so many feelings. Man, like, to me, like, to my schizo ass brain, I'm just like, that makes sense. That's all that makes sense. Like, that's what goes through my brain, right? But like, for the real world, that's not good enough. Just talking about it and being like, yeah, that makes sense. I almost sounded like the chocolate chip cookie guy, the chocolate chip cookie. But my point is, like, I need, my feels though, right? I can't, that doesn't work. My feels doesn't work. I need somebody to take this seriously. I think it's worthwhile. I think there's something fucking here. And I need somebody with the fucking interest that has a fucking PhD or knows about this shit to give it a whirl. And apparently I'm trying to create a non-profit so that, like, I don't know, something can happen. Man, I wish I had like a straight up, like, I want there to be like a autistic zoid out there that goes like, I'm autistic and I'm schizoid, and they make a channel and they do what I do, and then like we like fucking work together, like so that we could like translate, like be like, hey, you appeal to that side of the zoids and I'll appeal to this side of the zoids, and then we can help all the fucking neurodivergent homies that are all like disassociated and disconnected from the world. Like that would be cool. That'd be sick. I don't have that person in my life yet. I don't know where they're at. I'm looking for them. Like I have people like that in my life now, like personally, right? That are kind of more on that side of stuff, and like, yeah, I mean, I'll admit it, dude. Like, and it's funny. Like Shadow says, oh, man, like he jokes, like, oh, you must have a fetish for autistic people. You like to hang out with them and stuff. It's like, um, yeah, I mean, considering that they're like autistic people are essentially, or autistic, possibly autistic people or whatever, or that kind of whatever it is, like differing kind of neurodivergence in my own type of people are the ones I was able to first connect to as a friend, like on a human level that makes sense to me. Of course, I'm gonna like autistic people. I don't always understand the way they think about stuff. I don't always understand it, this shit and the way they think, but I'm so willing to learn it and explain it. And I think the reason I love talking to autists that are like really open and want to discuss stuff like psychology and the human mind and the brain, and maybe if they know a lot about neurology and that, is because like I'm willing to listen to all their special interest stuff and like just be like, oh, okay. Oh, and then like they're willing to slow down or try to explain it again, and then I try to explain it and how it's processing in my head, and then they have questions about how I'm thinking about it, and then I help them translate that back, and like it's like this cool fucking thing back and forth, and yeah, that's why I like fucking autists, man. I love schizos too, because I mean, I don't mind fucking sitting there with another schizo homie and just like be like, yeah, but what about this? And oh yeah, but what if this happened in this hypothetical, and in 10,000 years in the future, and blah, 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 like, you know, jumping from like loose associative topic to topic. That's really fun for me too. Obviously, it's more natural for me. It's like a more natural state. But I always like being challenged. I was always somebody that likes an uphill climb. But it's cool because like the fun the the fun part, I don't know about people are just great in general. I'm not convinced of that one. Um but but with autists it feels like the uphill battle of trying to like be more grounded in the concrete. It's still a lot of work, but like an autist will give me like a fucking like a fucking, what do you call it, a little motorized cycle. They'll give me like a little tram, they'll give me like a tram or something I could ride in. It's not the fastest, but it'll get me there, and without like just like burning me out. That's what an autist provides me. Like it's uphill because it's very different than the way I think, but like they're like, and then I feel like sometimes I've done the same for the autists. Like they're like their own uphill thing. Like I'm trying to figure out like what the fuck, like why is this like. I've had like I've had in the past like people that are kind of on that side of things, and like yeah, they'll be like really hyper concerned about like some like minute seemingly minute thing, and then like just me like trying to translate why that thing isn't as devastating as it may feel it is, by sort of making the same thing like a little dot, like a little thing that helps them zoom out, and I'm willing to like take it step by step and just and be able to do that. Like, that's probably why they don't mind talking to me. So all the schizo specs out there, kind of like on my side of things, just remember this. You'll have a better chance of having a conversation about your experience with an autist than with a lot of other people. Because they might actually be interested enough, especially if one of their topics of interest is like the human mind or psych or philosophy even, and the way they like to approach it. They're probably going to be the most willing to just like hear you out and have a discussion about stuff. And then like when you say stuff that sounds like kind of wacky to them, or like really like, okay, where'd that come from? They're probably going to be willing to ask you, and when they hear your answer, even if they don't fully understand it because your thinking is very different, they'll be able to detect the sincerity of what you're saying. They won't have to be worried about like you're making shit up, or not making shit up. You're discussing this like in some bad faith way, or in some like weird read between the lines what I'm saying, or manipulative, socially manipulative way, because you're just as unconcerned with that as they may be. I know this is really like dorky or nerdy or whatever. It's kind of like if you had like a fighter and a wizard, right? Or like, let's just say like a monk and a wizard, right? Or a ranger and a wizard, or some shit like that, right? I don't know what's going on with Active. He's having a blast. And they're in the same party, and they go on these quests and go through all these battles and go through all this shit, right? But at the end of the day, if they're in that same party, they could still have a conversation about what it's like to live that, dungeon crawling, dragon slaying life. And curiosity striving life, even if their way or their approach to the world is so different. It's like, yeah, it's like a it's like a, if we're talking about like D&D stuff, it's like a magic based person and an artificer being friends in that world. No, I feel like the schizos are more wizards. I feel like the autists would be artificers. Like like gnomes that like build mechanical things and devices, or maybe even integrate some magical aspects into their science and their like the technology they create, like mechanical golems and shit like that. Like, I feel like that'd be more the autist side of the other side of the wizard. It's like who's like, where did you get your knowledge, wizard? From a dream, Yeah, I don't see the autists relying on their dreams to find the answers to the universe, except unless it's Shadow. And even then, that guy doesn't trust his own dreams. But I don't know. I guess wizards and artificers should reach across the aisle. Rogue vibes? Zoid give you rogue? Okay, if a Zoid was a magic class, it would be a sorcerer. Okay, fine. Okay, if we keep it in the magical realm, okay, you know what? If we keep it in the magical realm, just like in the magic class realm, the I feel like the schizo would be a warlock. The autist would be a wizard. And I don't know. That's my thought. Cuz like are warlocks the ones that make pact with like cosmic beings and stuff? Schizoids are the necromancers. I mean, those are still wizards usually. Like necromancers are no, they can be anything. That's a never mind. But no, like warlocks, yeah, warlocks are the ones that commune with like the cosmic. Yeah, that'll be wizards. So autists are wizards. Yeah, autists are wizards. Schizos are warlocks. There you go. Because like a warlock has to be like fucking imagining and interacting with like brain numbing, body disassociating fucking cosmic beings and make pacts with them and shit. Right? That warlocks are the schizos. Wizards are the autists. Because the autist would be like, I must read all these books. There is a rhyme and reason. Yeah, and I think oh yeah, that was I think I talked to Era about this once, and that sorcerers are like the sorcerers would be the neurotypical psychos. There's just a lot more sorcerers. Because they just have like this innate, like they could just like innately do certain things. And because the world kind of functions for them or something. Meanwhile, you got a bunch of like wizards. I know I'm just doing the voice. I'm kidding, but it's just like I must methodically research all these tomes and memorize each and every form of incantation and gesture. And I must have specific objects in my hand that I hold, and a specific thing, and a specific this, and a specific that. It's all like really specific. Fucking warlocks. Be like, oh, you can do that? I just do this. Fucking eyes roll in the back of their head. They chant some fucking weird words that like causes them like tremors, and then they fucking can do the same spell without all that study. But I feel like sorcerers can never like making me miss BG3 obsession over here. Like I feel like maybe I have it all mixed up, but like I feel like sorcerers they just can't like cast the same level of insanity as like the highest level wizard or the highest level warlock. Like I feel like they I don't know, maybe it's not correct lore wise, but it feels like they would just be more inhibited by the fact that it's like there's a limit to their innately given. They would have to dabble in the wizard world, or they would have to dabble in the warlock world to like attain more power, more. You know, they'd have to like fucking cross class or some shit. Wild magic? Yeah, wild magic sucks. Isn't wild magic where like it fucking just it goes haywire? Shit's whack. That they're a wizard? That's fucking sick. Wizards are cool as fuck. But I'm not a wizard, I'm a warlock. Like I rather the cool idea of like, you know, opening a book and like fucking I communicate with, you know, like the entities from beyond. Give me like I will like fucking sacrifice my toenails. Yeah, it is funny. It is funny. No, yeah, wild magic's funny. For sure. Sometimes it can be really bad, but yeah, sometimes it's funny. But the wizards are like, yes, yes. They're like doing math. They're doing math, but with spells. They're doing like wizard mathematics. We're also like, oh, fuck that. Who needs that? Like, there are things in this universe beyond our understanding of your wizardly books, wizard. Do you not understand the vastness of our universe? And Wizard's like, yeah, I'm sure it's really big, but I have to work on this. But why? What does that mean? But why what? Oh yeah, no, I like magic stuff. I actually like, as a schizo would, I actually like. I've read grimoires and occult shit, and I'm into, Gnosticism and shit like that. Yeah, like a schizo. I like all my metaphysical theories and blah blah blah, and my yapping on fucking the other world. The conceptual world can be brought into reality. My fucking warlock ass. It's like if we're thinking about like, what is it called? It reminds me of like a Victor. If you watch Arcane, it's more of like a Victor versus a Heimerdinger. A Heimerdinger is like more the autist, and Victor is like the more schizo scientist or whatever. Like I think that's a pretty apt. Schizos or Victor, autists or Heimerdinger. Such things are dangerous. One should not play with magic. We must use science. They are real, but quite dangerous. Destructive. Raise your dongers? Yeah. It's just funny because both characters, at least at certain points, had this idea of like wanting to reduce unproductive suffering in the world, but Heimerdinger wanted to do it through science, and Victor wanted to do it through science, but he discovered something more than science. There's more. The cosmic. That which the mind cannot comprehend, but must wrangle. So he went the more out there route. I've only watched the first 3 episodes of the second season. I need to keep watching it, but I'm watching it with my daughter, so we've been busy, and like anyway, I watch it with my daughter and my wife, so it's like a little show that me, my wife, and my daughter watch together. Echo feels like kind of in the middle, yeah. There you go. Echo's a normie. Echo normie confirmed. Neurotypical Echo confirmed. But like, that guy has some crazy style though in drip. Those fucking fits though. The fit style. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, we watch it together and whatever. I watch it with my family. It's fun. And yeah, but like the moment I was like, oh man, shit, because I was like, is Victor like an autist, or because he's like so like hyper focused on this and blah blah blah, and then like the moment I realized, I'm like, oh shit, Victor's just a fucking a special interest STEM obsessed schizo. Like, The moment he in spoilers, he shows up in a certain point in the second season, and essentially, like, I know, I'm kidding about that. Essentially, he's Jesus, right? Like once Victor was Jesus Christ, I was like, yeah, that's my homie. That's my homie. Victor's my homie. Psh, you be acting like Jesus and shit, rolling up in there. Drink of my blood. Not like that. He didn't do that, but you know what I mean. Like, just fucking, like, you know, fuck. Like at that point, it was like fuck, like, just conventional science to, you know, improve the world. He just went. And like a warlock, he was willing to, like, sacrifice parts of himself to, like, for this bigger thing. That's funny. I really like the way they put together. I really like Heimendinger in Arcane, especially in what I've seen of him in the second season, and what I saw him at the end of the first season. I really like how they portrayed him. Like, he's so fucking wholesome, dude. What is your projection for the coming fiscal year, and where do you stand on the current issue abroad? Are you talking about like North Korea teaming up with like fucking Russia type shit? Like, what do you mean? That shit, for those that are weebs out there, that shit made me laugh. It reminded me of, like, if, like, just because of the kind of arrogant sort of, like, the more arrogant bravado that, like, Putin puts out. Like, in my mind, it felt like Perfect Cell, teaming up with Fat Boo. Like, when I saw the pictures of Putin and Kim Jong, I was just like, so arrogant ass Perfect Cell teamed up with Majin Buu. So that made me laugh, because fucking Kim Jong looks like fucking Fat Boo. Or are you talking about, like, everything everyone's freaking out about in regards to, like, you know what? I forget. Active just says things. I don't think they're actually meaning for me to answer that question. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for listening. I went a lot longer than I expected to. I say Blade said Brian Scott's deep sleep affirmations. Oh yeah, man, dude, there's some ASMR out there that's definitely for autists, and ASMR out there is definitely for schizos, even if they don't know they're making it. The other day I'm like seeing videos of, like, ASMR of, you know, someone discussing, like, some specific, like, function of a specific cell in every, like, aspect, and it's just someone talking about the, you know, whatever it is. Fucking mitochondria is the powerhouse, but, like, you know, yeah, and it's like ASMR. And then I've seen other ASMR where it's like ASMR of, like a Kabbalah, like Kabbalah ASMR, or some shit like that, or like they're reading, like, Nietzsche ASMR. And then I saw somebody, like, there's like a history ASMR where it's like somebody for 3 hours talking about the Goths versus the Romans or some shit. It's so great. I love it. The internet's amazing. And seeing people in the comments, damn, this really helped me sleep. Thank you. I love this subject, and hearing about it made me really cozy. And they're just like, they were listening to like the text in a Grey's Anatomy or something. Not the TV show. Anyway, all right, guys. Thanks a lot for joining me. If you like my streams, if you want to support my stupid bullshit that I do, and I will keep doing what I can to do it. Please, guys, any couple of bucks on Patreon or on PayPal is like super useful, especially right now. I'm having a tough time of it, but it should get better by January, and that's almost around the corner. So things should get better, right, guys? But thanks for those that also already support and already like chip in and help out. I really fucking appreciate it. I'm not looking at any of you specifically because that would be gross. All right, you're welcome, Duck. Peace out, guys. I'm gonna be on the server doing what I do best, which is in the evenings, which is absolutely nothing. Being a vagabond on the internet. As usual, when day is dark, always remember, happy day. Oh, I recommend to remember happy day. Active research.